So I thought I'd talk about some of the cultivars of coleus I have in this bed. And that planter is a black elephant ear called black coral. And with it I planted a two-tone red, which really started showing up just recently, the nice two tones. When I first planted it, it wasn't as showy as that. But that's a seedling I discovered last year. I named it Avenatti 2. It's named after, there's three of them I have named after Michael Avenatti. And I'm really pleased with this one because the dark red plays off well with that black elephant ear. And then next to it, there's a big planting of the coffee cups elephant ear, which is the dark green elephant ear, upturned cups and black stems. And then I've got a lot of cultivars here of coleus in the bed, of course. And some of them are my own selections and some of them are ones I've purchased over the years. This is a new one called Sienna. It's kind of a rusty orange. It's a nice plant because it's compact and the color's nice. That's Vern Ogren's Gold Giant. This is one called Oxblood, which I got from Pam Baggett years ago. And behind it is another Vern Ogren selection, which he named Purple Haze, which seems kind of an odd name to give it because it's not very purple. But it's a beautiful coleus. It's an unusual color. It goes really well with the Gold Giant. And then the gold one behind it is one of my selections I made a few years ago, and I named it after Vern Ogren. So that's Coleus Vern Ogren. It's really nice because it's a completely sun tolerant gold. It doesn't burn at all. It doesn't fade either. And it's really vigorous. It's got a tad of an orange tint to it, but generally it's a gold with dark stems. I'm really pleased with it. This is another selection of mine, which I named Dusty. It has that, what I call infinitesimal spotting. So the spots are so small that you get the idea of infinity, like you're looking into a galaxy and you couldn't possibly see every star. It's like that with the spots on this one. This is a nice coleus I've had for a long time in my collection. It's called Zooey. This is a new one I just trialed this year. I'm not sure what I think about it. The camera doesn't show up some of the rust colors as well. The colors are different on the camera than they are in real life, of course. But that one is called Box Office Bronze. Then this is very coppery, rusty colored, but again, the camera doesn't show you quite as well as real life. And this one's called Fancy Feathers Copper. This is a sport off of Fancy Frills, which Pam Baggett made. It's one of my favorite for the edges. It's a nice trailing coleus, and she called it Ruby Ruffles, but it's a sport off of India Frills. There's a really nice rusty orange one. And again, the camera doesn't do this one justice, but it's a really nice rust. It's probably the best. It's called Florida Inferno. No, I'm sorry, it's just called Inferno. And then behind it is my selection of a really good coleus. It's a good performer. I always use it in the beds. And it's named after my former co-worker and friend, Christopher Whiteside is what I named it. That's a selection of mine I made years ago, and it's called Crazy Love. And behind it is one of its sports called Crazier Still. There's Crazy Love Fusion, another sport off of it. This is a dark sport off of it I call Dark Love. And there is another one. So here we go with some more for the Crazy Love. And there's another sport off of it that has completely black veins, which I call Crazy All the Way. It's really, really nice. Back there's a nice green one. It's an all green sport of a variety I made called Envy. It's important to include greens in these plantings. They start looking a little weird if you don't have enough green in them. So there's another green one back there, which I named Olive Simplicity. So that's Olive Simplicity next to Envy. And again, that gives you some green in this mosaic of color. It kind of grounds you. This variety is a really nice one. It's from the Main Street series. It's not quite as compact as most of the Main Street series, but the color is incredible. It's one of my favorites. And it's called Beale Street. This is a dark sport off of a spotted variety called Private Dancer. And so I just call this one Dark Dancer. That's Salsa Verde, which is top-notch coleus. And then this one here is called Serrano. It's also a really good coleus. That's Salsa Roja. It's a little bit taller than Salsa Verde, a little bit lankier, but a nice coleus. This is a top-notch coleus too. It's kind of slow, but it's compact, so I always use it, and small, so I always use it at the edge of a border. But it's called Stu Jr. Really nice contrast between the burgundy and the gold. And sun tolerant, which is nice. This is a dark sport of a variety that I named Buddy Val. So let me show you the original Buddy Val. That's this gold spotted variety, which is really nice. And it's interesting how different a sport can come off of a coleus, but again, that Buddy Val sported to this phenotype right here, which is a dark sport of Buddy Val. You know, it's two-tone spotted red. This is one I've had for years in the collection. It's a variety I purchased a long time ago called Saturn. And it's stunning. It's lanky, so you have to forgive it for its lankiness, but the green is this really nice, kind of a wasabi avocado type of green with really nice burgundy contrast to it. This is a selection, a random seedling that came up in my neighbor's yard, and so I named it after him. It's really nice. It's so I call it James Ward. Here's a little seaweed. There's a collection Under the Sea series of coleus that have really bizarre things. He calls them under the sea because they look like, you know, things you'd find under the sea, like this one. But that's actually a coleus he named Seaweed. That's a nice strong coleus named Heart. I got that from Pam Baggett. And behind it is one of my selections. This also was a seedling that came up in my neighbor's yard, and I finally named it after my good friend Sam Karanja. So it's Coleus Samuel Karanja. It's a really good performer, and beautiful, sun-tolerant chartreuse gold with fringed wavy leaves, edged in purple sometimes. You can see a little bit of purple there on the edges, and it has dark stems. There's a flower. Well, it's a flower spike starting. You can see the dark there. I just love that coleus and I use it a lot. Behind it, that's Red is Good. That's one of my selections. And then it's hard to see that one. That's a spotted one. It's one that came from Vern Ogren, and he named it Serenade. That one is named after another friend of mine, Jesse. And this is one that I got from Pam Baggett years ago. It's called Sunstroke. It's a large leaf variety. That's a new one to the collection last few years. Somebody discovered it in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, so they called it Golden Gate. It's variable how much yellow it shows. Sometimes it's mostly green and black, but at its best it shows a lot of gold with flecks of red. This one is a dark sport of a variety that I selected. The main variety is called Coral Chameleon, but it has this darker sport, which especially in sun is more of a burgundy, mottled burgundy. This is one of Vern Ogren's selection, which he's called Vulcan. And there's since a new one come out called Vulcan too, so now people are calling this one Vern Ogren's Vulcan. That little gold one is a semi-trailing gold that's called Peridot. And behind it is a variety that is properly named Alabama Sunset. Somebody else discovered one in a Texas parking lot, so they named it that, but it's really Alabama Sunset. That's a really nice variety. At the moment, I had to look at the tag to tell you because there's two that look identical. I believe this one is, it's either Katy or Gold Lace. They're both of those varieties are from Vern Ogren. I've grown them both for years, and I can't distinguish them. And so I'm not sure if it's really one or if it's two distinct varieties. And that's one of my selections that I named Emerald. It's really nice because it's a really deep green and with black stems. And then over there is a nice pink one, which I call Scarlet Starlet. That's also a random seedling that came up in my neighbor's yard. So there's Alabama Sunset again, and then next to it is a selection I made. I called La Vie en Rose. And this is a really nice variety called Chelsea Rose, which I purchased a number of years ago, and it's a really good performer. It's fast and strong and sun tolerant for the most part. It does appreciate some shade, but it does well in both situations. That's one called Electric Lime, and my mom always thought that Scarlet Starlet and Electric Lime were a good pair for each other, and so I always try to do that in my plantings. That's one of my selections that I call Chartreuse Picotee. It's a nice strong coleus. And then here's one that I named after a friend of mine, Dave Munden. This is one that's called Watermelon. This is a variety called Fantastique. This is a really nice coleus in that Main Street series, and they named it Ocean Drive. It's sun tolerant, and it's self, it's bushy without you having to do a lot of pinching, and it's just beautiful. This one is a variety that I selected, and it's really interesting in its color pattern. The camera probably doesn't do it justice, but it's one I called Cozy, and this is a mottled sport of it, so that cinnamon brown field is mottled, whereas the original is more of a solid color. And then this variety is one of several I've named after my mother. This one I've named Sarah Catherine, and it's variable, but at its best it has a nice mottled field around a magenta flame. It's a large coleus but it's really bushy and lots of leaves. This is one of several I named after my friend April Dang. This one I call Dang Girl. It's a nice spotted one, and there's this dark sport, which makes it a good companion. This is another one I named after my mother. It's called Sarah's Smile. That's a new selection, which I'm not sure if I'm going to keep. But it's nice. It was really nice in the greenhouse. That's a new variety I'm trialing of the Main Street series. It's called Portage Avenue. This one's new to the collection a few years ago, but it's a really good one. It's called Ruby Punch. That's one of my selections. It's new. It was a random seedling last year, but I'm really pleased with it. That's a variety called Spitfire.